We look so stale moving the ball. Like we look like we were playing like a elite premier defense which LSU, their offense is incredible. I think our defense really showed out and looked amazing, but they've never been known for their defense. We should have put up a lot more points against.
It's around the ball, around the ball. It's around the ball, the Ball Clemson podcast. It's around the ball, around the ball. It's around the ball, the Ball Clemson podcast. It's around the ball.
All right, guys. Well, we're back with another episode of Around the Paul. I'm Garrett Mitchell along with Cole Gerard and Caden Hughes. And, well, we've had a few days now to digest, to process, and unpack what happened Saturday night against LSU. So we're going to talk about that on this episode, what we saw, what we think happened, what went good, the lot that went wrong, and then toward the end, we're going to talk a little bit about this week's game against Troy. So Saturday night, Cole, let's start with you. Just your initial reactions to what happened, and I'll bring up the rear on this segment because I've got a good bit to say about it. So, Cole, you first. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, we got a chance to hear from Coach Sweeney yesterday about the whole thing. And, during the game, we go into halftime with a lead. And to this second, I still think if we make that field goal to go up 2 possessions that, we got some momentum, we're going to win the ball game. I think when we missed that field goal, it flipped. LSU gets the turnover or the missed field goal, and they're right at midfield, close to it, and then it flipped the script from there. They went down there and scored. We threw an interception. But my post-game reactions was like, I was pissed off, of course. We just lost to LSU at home, but I wasn't even mad because I was like, we played that bad on offense. Cade, I'm a huge believer in Cade. I've been a huge believer in Cade since he got here. And we played that bad on offense and still had a chance to win it on the last drive with a minute left. So that's why I haven't fell off the face of the earth about it yet. I think this Clemson team is going to be fine. I still feel a lot better leaving this LSU game than I did the Georgia game last year. So I think this offense will be fine. Cade Clemens still has confidence, and we're going to see a chance for this offense to really blow some steam off their shoulders this week against Troy.
Yeah, and Caden, what about you? Just your off-the-cuff thoughts coming out of Saturday night.
So I watched the game as a student, just on the hill. And I haven't really had the heart to go back and rewatch it. So I have more atmospheric reaction to the game than maybe more analytical one and stuff. But just the vibe throughout the game was disorienting. It was not great for most of the time. The field goal is a perfect turning point, but even in the first half, we were able to get so many turnovers, and our inability to capitalize on those turnovers, we looked so stale moving the ball. Like we looked like we were playing like a elite premier defense which LSU, their offense is incredible. I think our defense really showed out and looked amazing, but they've never been known for their defense. We should have put up a lot more points against a defense like that. And then with Cade, I like how he's progressed. I like how he's able to bounce back from big games. But this is the 5th big game where I feel like he hasn't especially showed out to the extent that he should have. And I definitely have real concerns about his ability to show up against real top tier opponents. And I'm pretty dejected towards our offense. I think we can get it done against teams like Troy, like Syracuse, Georgia Tech, but in order to achieve what we want to achieve this season, Cade's going to have some great fourth quarter drives against real blue blood defenses. And I'm kind of at I'll believe it when I see it point when it comes to that at this point.
And I'm the same way. And I've got about 3 or 4 things to unpack that I noticed or really just went anywhere from irking me to outright pissing me off when I watched the game on Saturday. And most of it centered around the offense. And first and foremost, you know what? I'm going to back this up. I'm not going to go after the offensive line first because I think there were some factors that played into that. Let's start with the lack of a run game. First of all, I don't know how much you had to begin with, but then it was completely abandoned. And it was Clemson was going to throw the ball 9 out of every 10 plays, if not more. and it just gave LSU the opportunity to pin their ears back and send pressure. That's all it amounted to. It's football 101. But Adam Randall had 5 carries total. He was supposed to be your RB1. But what really got me was that every single back on the roster, I believe, played and had at least 1 touch, except your supposedly all-world 5-star freshman, Gideon Davidson, who by my eye played 4 snaps and never touched the ball. I mean, Caden, if you can't run the ball with who you have on the field, why not at least give him one to see what he can do? That was, to me, was infuriating.
Appreciate it.
Couldn't agree more.
And just, to that end, why do you think we didn't see Gideon get more carries and more touches? And Cole, I'll ask you the same question.
I mean, I think Dabo said about a month ago that we as fans sometimes are a little too quick to expect playing time out of freshmen when they first come in because we've seen so many guys come in and start day one. And I know at the running back position, especially, a lot of times coaches like more experienced guys that can block on third downs, that can do their job. Gideon could just have not been ready week 1 and still be an elite player. So I would have loved to see him in more, but I wasn't as infuriated by his lack of touches. I'm very annoyed by our lack of running the ball. Like you said, Cade ran the ball 8 times. I mean, a lot of those were QB scrambles and stuff, but our leading rusher should not be our quarterback. I mean, like, that's just not – we need to have some sort of run game. 5 carries from Adam, like you said. I don't know if anyone else had multiple – maybe David had 3, maybe. But, I mean, it was terrible run game. 1.5 yards per carry or something like that. It was inefficient, and it feels like we didn't even try.
Yeah, Cole, just your thoughts on that. Do you think that Davidson should have at least been handed the ball a couple of times just to see what he could do, or were you okay with with who got the touches?
Well, I'm not going to be very crucial and throw too much shade at the run game Saturday because we heard in Sweeney's presser yesterday, he said we didn't even give the run game a chance, didn't even try it. Running the ball, I don't know how many attempts we had on the night, maybe 20-something attempts. That's not going to win a ball game, a top-10 matchup in Death Valley. I know Gideon messed up on like a pass block, and Sweeney pulled him out. I'm not disagreeing with the situation. Of course, I don't make the calls, but you got to run the ball. You got to trust your backs. You got to give Adam Randall some more touches. You got to give Gideon more touches. I even think you got to give Keith Adams and David Eziamume more touches. Keith Adams out there throwing blocks. If he doesn't lay that one block, Cade gets sacked. I think it was a first down. It was a first down play too. I think it was a pass to T.J. Moore Westco. And if Keith Adams don't get a block down, it's a sack. But I think Adam Randall has to be better in the pass block situations. But you got to establish a run game. You got to figure it out this week. I think, like I said in a space yesterday with Anthony, man, Monday through Thursday is fixing those mistakes, and then Saturday versus Troy, you're letting all that steam out versus that you didn't get to do versus LSU.
Right. And, we talk about the offensive line, and I want to circle back around to that. And in the moment, I was extremely disappointed with the offensive line and still am to a degree. But once the emotion subsides and you get a little bit of clarity, there was – I'm not sure what more you could expect. When you completely abandon the run game, LSU knows you're going to do nothing but throw the ball, and so they send pressure on every play. The best offensive line in the history of the game would have trouble standing up over 4 quarters.
Yeah, I think I was talking about this yesterday. I think LSU's defensive game plan from the start of the game was awesome. Both their coordinators came into the night, ready to win. And, we didn't do that. I will say the only narrative, like Coach Sweeney said, the only narrative that pushed was Tom Allen. Like Garrett Riley's got to do a better job. But I think LSU's offensive staff, offensive coordinator made the right adjustments at halftime to, go in there and win a big game like that. But their defensive scheme and their defensive, whatever plan they came in to Saturday night with on defense, it worked from the start. And, we went 60 minutes of football not adjusting to that blitz. And, going back and watching that, it's just like it sucks because, I'm not even going to put it all on one person. Like, I'm a huge K guy. I said that, but K made a lot of mistakes Saturday, and he owned up to it, which is good to see. And I'm glad that Dabo hasn't sugarcoated anything, and like he's saying, look, my quarterback sucked Saturday, which he did. Going back and looking those third, fourth down plays to end the ball game, you got Tyler Brown in the end zone, just waiting for the ball. All Cade has to do is look his way. And I think we saw a lot of 2023 Cade Saturday, a lot of one look and get scared type of stuff. And I don't think you're going to see that anymore. I think it sucks that it happened against a big SEC opponent like that, but we're in a new day and age of college football. You're going to lose games. I mean, I still think nobody's going 15, 16-0, whatever it is, how many games you play with the new playoff thing. So I think this Clemson team's fine. And, like I said, I'm ready to be back in the Valley on Saturday.
Yeah, and Caden, and it's to the point that Cole just made. We hear all the right things being said. We hear Dabo Swinney say all the right things. We hear Cade Klubnik say all the right things. Well, I didn't play well. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. And the lip service is great. But at what point is, that's not good enough at this point, because it's been said over and over and over again. And on this stage, this Clemson team has consistently come up empty over the last several years. At what point does something have to give?
I fully agree with what you're saying about the lip. I like the term lip service. I think that just I'm sick of hearing, even if it's accountability or owning up to mistakes or a good assessment of what went wrong or a positive spin. Like, I want to see a difference. I want to see a difference in execution. And I just feel like every year and every few months, it's just a reskin or a rebrand of kind of the same problems and the same issues. And I think that a lot of that goes back to what Cole said about the game planning. I think that we get outsmarted way too often for a team with such an experienced head coach and such a recognizable culture. Like, I think LSU being able to just neutralize the run game, put the ball in Cade's hands, and trust that Cade cannot take over games against opponents like this, and they won that gamble. And I think that there are inability to game plan along with teams like that and just execute from an intelligence level, and then also to kind of put our money where our mouth is for 5 years now you buy into the hype over the offseason, and you buy into the hype even throughout the season and stuff. But I feel like it's been a lot of disappointment at moments like this. Not all the time, but more than it should be for a school like Clemson.
Right. And, Cole, you were there. You were in the box, and you were there around all the post-game press conferences and all of the pomp and circumstance and niceties that went along with it. But one thing, and again, this is something just watching it on TV that was maddening to me. Even when it became obvious that Clemson was going to pass and do nothing but pass, one guy that we never even saw on the field. If he was on the field, I didn't see him. The one guy that Dabo Swinney heralded the entire offseason as such a tremendous weapon, the 6'5" transfer Tristan Smith. If you were going to do nothing but throw it, would it not stand to reason that you could have at least put a big target on the field? Where was he?
And I like that you brought that up, because I've been wondering the same thing. I was just like, I was talking to my brother like that. I was like, dude, where the heck is Tristan Smith? And I didn't know he got on the field, but apparently he was there for 2 or 3 snaps. But, I think John Blau asked Coach Swinney that yesterday in his presser, and he said, just circumstances of the game and where we stood, it just didn't play out. But I'm like, you got to give him a chance. And I think we're going to see a lot of Tristan Smith on Saturday, especially with, I don't care how Antonio feels, you hold him out Saturday. No doubt about it. You get him, you keep him, try to get him to play at Georgia Tech next week, because we know that Georgia Tech game is not going to be easy. Right. So I think this Saturday, you let Tristan Smith go out there and let's show the world what he is. You don't bring a guy from SEMO to not play. You don't take your first ever transfer to not play. So I think Saturday we're going to see a lot of Tristan Smith, and I think you're going to hear his name called a lot.
Right. And on the defensive side of the ball, we did see a little bit more. And Kane, I was impressed with Will Helt. I think he had the first sack, maybe the only sack, because Lord knows, and I'm going to gripe about this too. Peter Woods and TJ Parker did not mash a grape against LSU's offensive line at all. They were non-factors. Will Helt, to me, was the best defensive lineman in that game for Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, Will Helt was incredible. Linebackers, Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz, I think were incredible. I know you said defensive line, but seemed incredible. They showed out a lot. I feel like Sammy was beating him off the edge a lot. Woodaz had multiple TFLs, and yeah, Parker and Woods. If you watched that game, it was your first Clemson game. You would have never guessed that they were the 5-star prospects or the top 10 projected draft picks that they've looked to see and stuff. What frustrated me a lot about this game was Nussmeier, like he ran decently well. I've never seen Nussmeier like use his legs to almost any capacity. I mean, I don't know if we can talk about his betting line was like 0.5 rushing yards for this game, and just he doesn't he never again. I mean, I stayed away from it. He never moves and stuff. It's just I've never seen that part of his game and his ability to run away from our defensive line unless he had a major athleticism change. I was annoyed and concerned to see him able. I know his footwork's decent, but his ability to not just navigate the pocket but escape the pocket kind of blew my mind last Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Cole, you know, what would you chalk up to the utter absence of Woods and Parker? I mean, you would expect two guys that are projected first-round draft picks with their track record, you would expect them to show up in a game like that. And you would have felt it was a favorable matchup. LSU had to replace 4 starters on their offensive line from last year. It was an offensive line that should have been ripe for the picking. You cannot tell me that 4 new starters were so unbelievably elite that they could block that Clemson defensive front 4.
Yeah, I think it was just an all-around weird night. But if you want to speak on the defense, I think the defense played great. Like they said, you know, Tom Allen was the only push narrative, and the linebackers in that front 7 D-line. But speaking about Peter Woods and TJ Parker, you know, not hearing their name called at all that Saturday night, I think that just kind of adds to showing you how elite and deep this defense really is. That you don't have to rely on just Peter Woods and TJ Parker and who else? Well, I think Devontae Capehart was all over the field. But I did see some film of Peter just smash 2 offensive line and just like pancake them sideways. But I think it really does show how deep this Tom Allen-led defense really is. But, you know, other than just Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz, let's talk about Ronan Hannafin. I mean, that guy was just all over the field Saturday. I think that was his first start, especially on the defense side on the defense side of the ball. You know, transitioning from wide receiver like that. I mean, you don't see a bunch of guys like that caliber just go out there and I think he had a lot of tackles. I can't keep up.
Played really, really well.
And he kind of
he deserves his credit.
Kind of got shooken up late in the game. Thought he was a little hurt, and I think Wade Woodaz did too. But I give the defense a lot of credit. Saturday night, Tom Allen. I was a little worried for sure, especially looking at the Clemson defense last year. I was ready to see opening up with a top 10 game like that, you know, where they would stand, and they did. And to lose by 7 with how bad the offense played, you got to give your defense credit, and we still had a chance to win that game with under a minute left. So just a weird night for sure. But, you know, like I said, with the TJ Parker, Peter Wood situation, I think it just shows you how deep your defense is.
And you know, Caden, I'll even say this, and I told somebody this the other day once I kind of came back down to earth and came to my senses. I don't know that LSU would really want to see Clemson again in a playoff setting. You know, hopefully this is something, all of the issues from Saturday, something that Dabo and Riley and the coaching staff can figure out. But if I was LSU, I don't think Clemson would not be high on my list of teams to see again.
Yeah. You go ahead, Katie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I think I agree. I think that like LSU is such a dynamic and explosive offense. And I mean, Nussmeier could have 50 touchdowns this year, win the Heisman, and he wouldn't be a top 2 LSU quarterback in the last like 6 years. Like it's what they've been able to do. And they got 2 top 25 transfers in the nation, and Barian Brown and Nick Anderson at receiver. I think that their inability to score, if we're going to highlight some of the strengths of this game, their inability to score and to move down the field and all those turnovers, I think is a big testament to just first, like, I mean, a difference in coaching and game planning on the offensive side of the ball for LSU, and then also just the strategic philosophy of bringing in a bunch of transfers every year. LSU had like the best transfer class in the nation. They also had 19 departures, and I think that that lack of continuity and just throwing these guys into such a big game week one is going to lead to some issues and some mental errors, some fumbles like we saw, some third down inefficiency, and I think that our ability to retain players, develop players on the defensive side of the ball, and incorporate a few transfers. Jeremiah Alexander, Will Held, of course, came into this defense, but overall, keep guys around. I think we were more ready for the moment on the defensive side of the ball than LSU was on the offensive side of the ball. And throughout the course of the season, I'd be excited to see how that develops. I think that also makes it even more concerning how our offense wasn't able to move the ball. But on the defensive side of the ball, I was happy to see that. I think we're only going to get better. I'm sure they'll gel together better with time, but I think that a team with a defense like ours that can get pressure on Nussmeier and that can match up with these receivers as good as anyone else in college football, I think that, yeah, we're definitely a bad matchup for LSU for sure.
Right. And, I do want to mention this because, Cole, you actually brought this up unsolicited, and I'm glad you did because I agree with it 100%. I even said it to my two friends I was watching the game with Saturday. I said it when it happened. When we missed that field goal coming out of the half, I had a bad feeling at that point. I looked at my two friends. One of them was a Clemson fan. The other's a Carolina fan. And I said, that just bit us in the backside right there. I said, do not be surprised if we lose this game because we missed that kick. My Clemson friend, oh, no, you're crazy. You're crazy. It's just this one drive. We're winning. It just started the third quarter. I'm like, do not underestimate what missing that kick just did to us. It was a chip shot. It was 47 yards from straight on. Hoosier has to make that. You've got to make it. There was no threat of it being blocked.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Did we attempt that field goal in the first half, in the late second quarter? Or was that early in the third?
That was early in the third. That was the opening drive of the second half.
Okay, let's talk before halftime. We had a chance to go. We had a chance to score again and go up 17-3.
Yeah,
we had a chance to go up 17-3 before halftime. We had the ball around midfield, if I'm not mistaken, right before half, and didn't move it. But yeah, speaking about that field goal, coming out of halftime, and you move the ball a little bit, and then you get stuck around with a 47-yard field goal, expecting, I kind of think he's a veteran now, Nolan Hoosier, and I'm not worried about Nolan missing that field goal. We know he's going to hold it up for us the rest of the year.
No.
Glad to see some good protection from the field goal team. We know that was a big struggle last year, but it's just one of those things like, God, if we would make that field goal, we have all the momentum in the world. We're up 2 possessions. We don't have a big lead. We don't have a big lead at all. But we're up 2 possessions. 2 possessions is big in college football.
Right.
And then you miss it, and you get the ball at LSU. They score, and then the next drive, I think, is when we threw that interception, Cole Turner. So it's just a momentum swing, and it sucks because it's just you think you make that field goal, man. We're going to win this game, 100%. Our sideline's going to be pumped. Nussmeier on his sideline. Brian Kelly doesn't want to go 0 for 5 in openers and stuff like that. And it just didn't happen. And it's just one of those things I wish we could flip back and get that field goal back one more time because you send Nolan Hauser out there right now to kick that field goal. Nolan Hauser out there to kick that field goal right now. He makes it. No doubt about it.
Yep, and Caden, it's just little things like that, little subtle nuances in a game of that magnitude. They can turn it one way or the other. They may seem insignificant at the time, but I agree with Cole when he first said it right off the bat. That play, if you go up 2 scores right there, who knows how LSU reacts. But you miss that field goal, now it's still a 7-point game. They went down and scored, and then it's game on from there.
Absolutely. I think, that was a turning point in the game. I mean, you don't want to play the butterfly effect game too much, but so much of college football is about the game script and about like momentum and stuff. And I do think that if we had that field goal, that extra possession lead, then like when LSU comes down and scores, because they're gonna score. They're LSU. It's a great offense. When they come down and score, maybe we don't completely abandon the run game. Maybe we try to
Right.
run the ball, try to move some clock. Maybe we take the first read. Don't try to go big game hunting. Because I think that we felt this impending like Garrett Nussmeier like explosion, and we were trying to like combat that by taking shots, by doing more than what we needed to do. Kay talked about that in his presser today of like not taking that first read, not taking the simpler thing, trying to overcomplicate defenses. And I think if we make that field goal, we can kind of relax and just run the ball more, play simpler. And I mean, we shouldn't need a two possession lead to be able to relax. If we're getting tense and making these mistakes against LSU, that's a whole nother issue. But I definitely think that making that field goal would allow us to just play a better game plan. Is something that we're maybe more comfortable with.
Exactly. Well, I think we've all said about what all we can say about the LSU game. And now there's another game Saturday. At some point, you've just got to turn the page and flip the script and get ready for the next one. So we've got the Troy Trojans coming in, and by all accounts, Clemson should win this game. So we're going to give our picks for that one. But before we do want to say our pick for pregame eats is our friends at Ardens Burger Grill. Best wings you're going to find, great burgers, great hot dogs. They're located just down the road from Clemson in Central South Carolina. Go see our friends at Ardens Burger Grill for all of your pregame eats and needs. But, guys, you got Troy coming in. Like I said, I think it goes without saying. Clemson wins this game. They're the better team by a long way. So we're just going to give some predictions on this game to end the show. And, Caden, I'll start with you and then go Cole, and I'll give mine. How do you see this game going on Saturday?
I mean, I think it'll go really well for us. I think that we're about to start a long string of us looking a lot better against weaker opponents. And, people will have a wide variety of how much people want to buy into this school. But I think this is the start of that. I think this will be similar to App State last year, where I think we're going to come out angry and firing. I think I'm excited to see who shows out because we have so many weapons, so many playmakers on this team. I would love to see Tristan Smith get on the field more. Love to see Gideon play more. You said you want a score prediction? I mean, I'd assume we're all picking Clemson and stuff.
Yes. Obviously.
A score, yeah. A score prediction. I think that our starters and our second unit are I think our second unit will play. I think that they're going to come out angry as well. I think we're gonna run the score a little bit. I'll go 45 to 6.
All right, I like it. Cole, what you got?
I like how Caden said that this game is like App State because it is. I'm glad we didn't get beat 30-something to whatever, 6-3 last year like we did versus Georgia last Saturday. I think there's a lot of, as much negative we saw Saturday, I think there's still a lot of positive to build from that loss, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I agree. I think this game is a lot like App State. You're coming out here, either way, it doesn't matter if you're 4-4, you're 11-0, you're 8-0. The Valley's going to be packed, and we know that. And it's going to see those, those guys that have that confidence, back in Death Valley, playing in front of 80,000 people. But this is a hot take here. I'm at the point where I want to see 4 quarters of K. Klumnik in the first team offense Saturday. I don't care if it's 65-0. I get getting backups in, but right now we got to see what our offense is capable of, and I think that it's capable of a lot. And I think we're going to see a kind of strike like we did versus App State, something that just makes the fans, breathe a little bit. Like I think that third down to Westco last year on the first drive is just like because those App State fans last year were pretty loud on that third down in Death Valley, and it was just one of those like I just like sat back and just let a breath out after Westco caught that touchdown. So I think this is like I said, you let the steam out Saturday and you steamroll them as hard as you can. I've known Dabo in years past, very respectful to his opponents, which is good. Dabo Swinney is probably one of the most respectable coaches in college football, but I want to see us put a beat down on Troy Saturday.
With you 100%. And I'll even harken back to a game, and I think this was when I believe it was Trevor Lawrence's freshman year, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Drop in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was against Louisville. And Dabo used that as a statement game. I believe Clemson won that game like 70-10, 70-3, something like that. That needs to be what happens Saturday. And with all preemptive apologies to Troy. Sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug. And right now, Troy needs to be the bug. You're the sacrificial lamb. You're it. Clemson needs to come out and utterly annihilate Troy. Keep the starters in. Run the score up just because you can. Clemson's going to win this game. I'm going to call it 63-13.
Yeah, I didn't even do a score prediction. I want to see something like 75-3. Let's let them kick a field goal. I mean,
Let's get greedy.
And I'm about to
Really
say
greedy.
this. When Deshaun Watson, early Trevor Lawrence, even Taj Boyd, even late Taj Boyd, when you came to Death Valley, you knew better. You were not escaping with a win. You can't.
Right.
When you got to come to Clemson, South Carolina, and play a game in Death Valley, you were scared for your life. And I think now it's to the point where you come to Death Valley, and it's a 50-50 matchup. But like I said, we're in a new day and age of college football. People build super teams off the transfer portal, and it wasn't like that back then. But when Furman and South Carolina State and Wofford, I mean, respect to the programs of the Palmetto State as well. But when they came to Death Valley, the score was 75-0, 75-7. It was always a beatdown, and it was with our fourth and fifth string guys. But like I said, Saturday, I'm keeping that first team O in there as long as possible until they're like, okay, we'll let them breathe a little bit.
Right. Well, I think that's going to about wrap it up for us on this episode. Caden, before we jump off, any final thoughts from you that you want to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody tuning in, and sorry for the stuffy, scratchy voice. Been battling a sinus infection, but Clemson Tigers are always going to push through it, and we're going to come out stronger on the other side. So apologize for that. I think next week I'll be back to 100%. But, guys, appreciate it as always. Look forward to a win in the Valley on Saturday. So I'm Garrett Mitchell, along with Cole Gerard and Caden Hughes. As always, for us here at Around the Paul and Clemson Sports Media, it's a great day to be a Clemson Tiger. Good luck. God bless. We'll see you in the Valley on Saturday. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
It's around the